He belongs to the absolute top of the underworld of Marseille, and he seems to be unfindable, a high-ranking police officer said about him. For years on end, this man flooded the French city of Marseille with coke and cannabis. Police attempted to convict him, but before they could send him to jail, he had already fled the country. While living a life on the run, he still ruled over his organization with an iron fist. But then, he made a mistake that would make him lose everything. This is the story of Mohamed Djeha. Mohamed is also known as Mimo, Papi Paolo, or Suarez. Despite having 3 nicknames and a large history, there is no photo of Mohamed available on the internet. He was born on the 21st of September 1981 in Béjaïa, Algeria, which is located on the beautiful edge of the Mediterranean Sea, about 220 kilometers from the country's capital. Mohamed and his family relocated to France, where he grew up in La Castellane, a district of the 15th arrondissement of Marseille in France. For the football fans who are watching this is also where Zinedine Zidane grew up. Instead of him getting a better shot at life, La Castellane is where he would become one of France's biggest drug dealers. The area is largely overrun by drug trafficking and constitutes as one of the most active outlets for drugs in the city of Marseille. For the young men growing up there, it's almost inevitable to not get involved in the drug trade. The area is regularly affected by gangs battling for turf, which comes with a lot of violence. Ever since 2010, every 2 or 3 years, anti-drug operations have been conducted in a desperate attempt to sweep the streets clean, hoping to put an end to it all for good this time. But right after they leave, the drug dealing starts yet again. Police estimate that the drug trade in Castellane brought in 80,000 to 90,000 euros a day, with nearly 1,000 customers per day. Yes, you've heard that correctly, not per week, not per month, no, per day. Mohamed's organization was responsible for a large part of those earnings. His organization served as a retail store for individual drug users. However, they also served as a wholesale store for other gangs who bought the product in bulk to then sell it in their own areas. What propelled Mohamed's organization and allowed them to bring in thousands of kilos of hash and coke were his contacts from all over the world, and Marseille's strategical location. Marseille is one of the gateways for the cannabis trade. From Morocco, it is coming into Europe through Spain. The city is also a key point in the coke smuggling route, which starts in South America and ends in Europe via West Africa. Where others were morally hesitant to sell coke due to its more severe effects, Mohamed didn't have a problem with it. He understood the much higher profit margins on coke versus hash and did not have to think twice about it. By now, its booming consumption in France in recent years has pushed more drug organizations into the market. Most of the drug trade was based in the K-Tower, a high-rise tower block that housed around 7,000 people. This tower block was described as the biggest sales point for mainly cannabis, though coke and firearms were also sold. It was a concrete fortress where customers were expected to form orderly queues. All the while, lookouts wearing balaclavas and using walkie-talkies controlled everyone who came in and went. Nothing went unnoticed in La Castellane. The drugs Mohamed supplied were often hidden in the homes of elderly women called drug nannies because they were less likely to have their homes searched. The same was the case for the profits that were made. The elderly women would get a few hundred euros a week for their services in return. In 2019, Mohamed was sentenced to a jail sentence of 10 years for money laundering and drug trafficking in Marseille. However, he fled before even hearing of the verdict. He most likely knew what was coming. An arrest warrant went out for him after, and that's when he started to live a life on the run. Just like many other criminals, he decided to flee to Dubai under a false identity, and that's where it went silent regarding him. He most likely expected to be able to run his organization in peace and live a luxurious life there, but that was not the case. It wasn't until May 2023 that his name popped up again. Mohamed was sentenced again in absentia, this time for an even longer prison sentence. They sentenced him to 30 years after he was found guilty of ordering a hit committed on the A55 highway near Marseille back on the 16th of February 2017. The Twingo of a member of a rival clan was pursued by associates of Mohamed who were driving a black BMW. While trying to flee in the Twingo, Kader B, 31 years old, was hit while overtaking, and his car had ended up on its roof. In front of terrified drivers, one of the assassins then came on foot to finish it off, firing 26 shots. The shooters, two brothers named Karim and Malik, were sentenced to 28 years in prison by the Assize Court of Bouches-du-Rhône on May the 17th. The reason for the shooting was obviously drug-related. It has never been discovered why exactly Mohamed had ordered the hit, though it was nothing out of the ordinary in Marseille. In the years prior to the shooting, there had been a lot of violence in Marseille. And what was the reason for all this violence? Well, gangs battled each other for a spot in the very lucrative drug market of Castellane. Especially the Yoda gang and the DZ Mafia have been going at each other for a few years now. More on that in a separate video. Had there not been as much demand for the drugs, it's less likely that these gangs would go on as far as they do currently. At the end of the day, it's all about money for them. If there's no money to be made, there's no reason for them to exert violence upon each other. In all my stories I've written about these drug lords, the blame is always put on them, though there is rarely spoken about the user. The French police chief Frédéric Camilleri, for a change, did put part of the blame on the users of these drugs, saying, "Drug trafficking takes lives every day in cities all over our country. Drugs take lives because there is a lot of money to be made in that environment. The money comes out of the pocket of the user, who has an important responsibility in what happens in our cities and our neighborhoods. Almost every murder in Marseille has something to do with drugs." It's a message that probably did not faze Mohamed, and he just went about his business. Although, nobody thought it was happening anytime soon. But on the 20th of June 2023, the news broke that the show was over for Mohamed. He was arrested in Oran, Algeria, by the Algerian authorities and immediately jailed. As one of the top priorities of the OFAST, France's anti-narcotic bureau, it was only a matter of time before they would get to him. He had hid for some time in Dubai as mentioned prior, however he started to feel unsafe there, as wanted criminal after wanted criminal got arrested ever since Dubai decided to sweep their streets clean. This led to him relocating to Algeria, once again hiding under false identities. The OFAST team knew he didn't have much space to move around and did not give up. Mohamed had succeeded for a very long time to stay out of their hands, but now they finally won. French authorities have already said that the chance he gets extradited to France is very slim. They went on to say, "We have handed over all paperwork to Algeria. The goal is for them to prosecute him and for him to serve the sentences in Algeria." Which is a bit odd, as usually countries would like their most wanted criminals to be extradited to them immediately. The French Minister of the Interior and Overseas, Gérald Darmanin, thanked the investigators for their work and the Algerians for their cooperation. It is a very big catch because he is someone who can be considered the #1 drug trafficker in Marseille, but he also organized the importation of narcotics for other French regions. Mohamed will be looking to spend a long time behind bars in Algeria. The convictions are serious, and French police seem confident they have enough evidence to back it up. Mohamed already had a cumulative sentence of 40 years open for money laundering and the hit he had ordered back in 2017. At the time of writing this, he is 41 years old. Add 40 years to this, and he will be 81, excluding any early release options. That's without any drug trafficking charges France plans to bring upon him as well. He will most likely serve the rest of his life in a prison. For the famous K-Tower, one of the landmarks of Marseille's drug trade, the municipality decided to tear down the building and renovate. This was the story of Mohamed Djeha. If you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like, a comment giving me feedback or even criticism, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.